Welcome. Are you sitting comfortably? Are you focused and not thinking about whatever's bothering you these days? I'm not here to test you. Please relax. Let your thoughts come and go and listen as they fade away in the distance. For better or for worse, this is where your life has brought you. Looking at a screen, listening to me. Imagine, for a moment, that you've just had a child. It's healthy, but unfortunately also completely blind. For their whole life, they will live in the dark and not see a thing. Their perception of reality is something that you might never be able to comprehend. How would you describe the world to them? What can't be touched or heard, smelled or tasted? How would you describe sunlight? By what it does? Or how it feels on their skin? I think I'd play them this piece of music. First composed by Tchaikovsky in 1878, these rays of light have traveled through decade after decade, finally reaching your ears this very moment. You have also traveled far to get here today, but you're only passing through and should probably get going.
I'd like to tell you a story. It all happened to me when I was young, walking in a forest, much like you are. Those were days filled with boundaries and rules, of no running in the hallways, don't do this or that or the other. With my world full of fierce discipline, I walked the forest to breathe.
One day, deep in the woods, I found a funny-looking tree, crooked, old, and wrinkly. With little work, few bits of bark became huge ships.
Calm creeks turned to ferocious oceans.
I can still recall the people I imagined
dragged downstream with a sense of guilt.
As I gazed back upon the old tree, I noticed something peculiar.
It was crying. Every crumple, like eyes closed tightly. Clear drops streaming silently down its wrinkly skin.
So I did, as children do. Tasted it. Not because it looked tasty, but to figure out
what it was. The first drop made my tongue tingle. The second made it prickle.
And the very moment the third landed on my tongue, a profound sensation spread through my chest.
Undefinable, like thirst, both vague and specific. One thing was clear. Something was changing within me.
I remember breathing in and out, feeding the fire.
I woke to a slight prickle in my fingertips.
I studied them closely,
discovering circular ridges in the foreign landscapes of my skin. The prickling soon slipped my attention.
It would be another week until it returned. A wave of gentle needles moving over my skin.
A limb falling asleep, perhaps?
I did not start worrying until it returned the third time.
first making its way up my neck,
Before engulfing my skull completely from behind.
I could even feel the tiny needles covering my eyeballs.
But it did not stop there. I held my breath as the small thorns crawled around my lips before
Spreading into my lungs and stomach. My awareness spread with it, and I remember the
Strangest sensation of my mushy dinner in there, as if I held its remains in the palm of my hand.
Suddenly,
My body took control and opened my mouth, an explosion of air rushing into my lungs. The tingling spread with it
through an endless web of veins.
Soon reaching my beating heart. For a moment,
I stood in awe of the activity.
Within my body, I felt my heart beating faster and my skin sweating.
Your body is your only vessel
In this world. And when it misbehaves, the claustrophobia is total.
Seek help.
I thought. And at that very moment,
The tingling needles shot from my brain down through my spine. I felt them scatter through my upper leg. My muscles contracted to lift my knee. My body weight
shifted forward, and a shockwave spread from the footsole
As it landed softly on the ground. The process repeated itself in greater detail for every step.
I was overwhelmed, but my body kept moving. I did not
At all feel like the boss, giving directions. It all happened automatically,
and I
simply along for the ride.
like you.
The doctor's office was cold and white.
crossing the floor felt like a polar expedition.
my parents' distant features of the landscape.
I wanted to explain, but was unable. My lips and tongue engaged
In an intricate choreography, myself in the audience observing the words
performed. My lips
muttered, I'm sure it will pass, while my thoughts were crying for help.
But I stopped paying attention. Instead,
I was following the hands of a clock mounted on the doctor's wall. They were both
speeding up and slowing down. I was slipping further and further
away. A levitating camera in a video game, merging with the code it was running on. Again with the binary, with the electronic circuit and so on.
I closed my eyes to let my sensations
lead me.
First, I spent some time with my bones. Among their many functions, I got lost in their continuous breathing.
An uninterrupted flow of
Calcium absorbed. And
even my skeleton was alive and living, in and of itself.
I could feel my mind
clinging to the known, to the cluttering thoughts, the buzzing of memories and fears of the future. But for each breath, tension
was released, and my shoulders sunk comfortably.
It certainly felt like I was in there, somewhere behind my face. But I was nowhere to be found. And the more I looked, the more hazy I became.
When my eyelids eventually opened, they felt as slow as a sunrise.
Photons
Converted to neurosignals shooting along the optic nerve, each carrying a piece of information.
into the darkness. The brain categorized motion, color, edges, distance. I sat for moments in the dusk, watching the sunrise.
When the world eventually lit up, I was no longer wondering why matter lights up from the inside. My experience had changed from the fire
To the light it emits. But it would get much stranger still.
Stretched, I started daydreaming. Or so I thought.
It began as a shimmering field, creeping slowly in from
The periphery of my vision. The hands of the clock, still moving, but among them
Vague shapes. Slowly but surely, I saw trees flowing past me, and among them,
myself, sitting right there in the doctor's office,
with a vacant expression.
walking around
Myself, I was surprised to still see the clock straight ahead. Myself from the side, the clock on the wall.
The two images were not overlapping, they just coexisted. Like imagining a familiar place with your eyes closed and you see both nothing and something at the same time. I turned to look
towards myself, but saw only the face
Of the doctor, lingering somewhere between
confusion, concern, and annoyance. However, when I put his face closer,
I was struck by terror.
the image of myself
had turned to look
straight
into my own eyes. I felt my own hair reach out towards
myself.
the weight of my hand landing softly on my shoulder. Eyes distant, looking at the daughter, looking at myself, losing boundaries, disappearing.
The fire was spreading. A delicate wave of nostalgia washing over me. Intimate recollections of past sorrows, relationships, education, and even medical experience. At last, I was no longer alone.
Not in the sense that the doctor was there in the room, but rather that we were together in the darkness of my mind. A vast number of sensations were still flowing, but now with two observers
to share the burden.
somewhere. Out of sight, a hand picked me up. And as I kept breathing, the fire kept spreading. Soon, it swallowed my parents, sitting in their chairs, doubting my story. I felt contradicting opinions and ideas coexist, but not in conflict.
Different notes and harmonious chords, shaping a balanced, indivisible whole.
More clouds spread into my vision,
and more sensations through my body.
The music was evolving. I looked at my hand.
5 fingers against the surface felt no different than 5 bodies or minds.
branches becoming aware that they were connected
to the same trunk all along.
Their experience my own, all of them
Present in my mind.
The prickling kept spreading. Each needle on my skin,
Another presence in my mind.
More and more observers sharing the burden. A vast number of sensations flowing. My world, like musical sunlight, just passing through. Every individual going about their business. Strangers on the street unaware that they were all each other, their surroundings, and me.
felt them all as I knew and felt myself.
And I could no longer feel contempt, or that anyone was somehow less deserving.
There was no longer me and you, no us versus them.
It was all just me.
As I kept breathing in and out,
Each new breath pushed me along a
An ubiquitous landscape that was simply too beautiful to ignore.
what lay past each tree and beyond every hill
Was another idea I knew
To be true.
Mountains, transient
Shadows of matter flowing through time.
Slowly from one point of view.
but for the mountain itself, oh boy,
is in a hurry, like everyone else. Both the whirlpool and the stream, an expression of energy floating through empty space. All experiences merging to one. There I was, all of us, you, me, I.
The light that shines through the film. All else is smoke and mirrors.
As with all stories, this one also
ends.
Not because the story
has an ending, but because it keeps moving, leaving us behind.
My body kept living like yours will. The surface is
preserving its illusion of separateness. This screen, our very own eyes. I couldn't tell if I ascended or dissolved. I'm soaring through space, but unable to move nevertheless. And as I turn in orbit, the boundary between light and dark keeps moving.
a cascading wave of thoughts arriving at dawn, just to slip away at dusk.
Suspended in nothing.
An energy field fumbling in the dark, trying to describe myself. I want to be safe, well fed, not too warm, not too cold, to be acknowledged by my closest. So even though
you are another part of me looking back, you will always be a stranger. A lump
Of resources
exploitation. The branches cut. Our hemispheres separated once again.
Wrath.
Skipping along the surface, never sinking in.
The inconsistent dash of beauty between the noise, picked up by a stranger with good intentions, and with it, sentenced to die. I don't care who you are, or how you found me, but we are both reaching in. A few lone rays venturing through space in just the right direction. Absorbed in our leaves, stored as future wills,
and exhaled as crisp and clean oxygen.
And while the light
warms our skin, or while we wait for the next sunrise,
we breathe in
and out.
All that matters is that you are here right now.
And for a moment, we are together.
You and me as one, like we always are, and we always will be.